What's going on, Quantum Nation? Welcome back. My name's Quantum, and today I'll be doing a review of the Sony X950H. Now, it's important to note that at the time of shooting this in April 16 of 2020, you cannot get any other size but the 49-inch variant. So that's what we're going to be reviewing today to give you a baseline understanding of what this product is offering. So with that out of the way, I want to talk about the first thing you're going to notice when you fire up this TV, Google's terms of service. Unfortunately, Google's terms of service plague the TVs and you have no choice but to submit. If you do not accept Google's terms of service, you have to pack the TV up and send it back to the store and get a refund because there's just no option to go offline and use the TV however you see fit without adhering to Google's terms of service. This is not a plug and play TV. This is a plug and submit TV, and it's something I really hope goes away, and at the very least, more consumers start being vocal about, because this is unacceptable. Now, if you can make it past that, there are some downgrades this year. You have a downgrade in terms of the remote. So last year, they gave you a metallic remote on the Sony X950H. Well, this year, you are now downgraded to a cheap hollow plastic remote, and it feels every bit as cheap as it looks. Now, the design is really kind of copy and paste at this point and beyond getting old because it's the 2018, I would say, Sony X900F design. And that honestly is unacceptable going into another year reskinning a TV again. You would think Sony would innovate further, but it just hasn't happened. Now, one of the things that really bugs me the most about this whole endeavor is the fact that even with the brand new X1 Ultimate chipset, they've made some sizable downgrades as far as the user interface and what you get as far as picture options. So if you want a bevy of picture options and creative controls, you will not have that on the brand new X1 Ultimate chip that they're offering this year with the Sony X950H, and you didn't have it last year with the 950G. You would have to look at legacy years in order to appreciate that, albeit their performance is going to be worse, so it's kind of like a double-edged sword. The point here is that they're giving you things that are new, but they're also taking away old things that made the TVs great. When you make a TV, you're supposed to be improving upon it every single year, not downgrading it for the sake of something new. Something that really just bugs me that I think should be mentioned and no reviewer ever mentions, so smack a like on being transparent about that. Now, let's talk about the performance. The motion on this TV is good. I didn't notice any real chopping or irregularities that ruin the experience, but it's not great. So I compared it to my 2017 Sony X900E, and the motion on that TV is far more fluid than what I found on this particular model. So not exactly my favorite thing there. Now, when we talk about black uniformity is hit and miss. There are moments where the black levels can be nice and deep and rich, but then there are also a great many of moments, mostly in video games where logos pop on the screen, where you'll just notice clouding, haziness, blooming. I mean, it was a total mess, and it was very inconsistent, making the performance feel really, really poor. So when we talk about color, that's where it gets a little better and starts redeeming itself. I found the color to be excellent. I thought it looked really good and quite close to a lot of the QLED models on the market right now from Samsung. That being said, those are downgraded models and they're not at the same standard that they were a couple of years ago, but I'll digress because that's a conversation for neither here or now. But what I will say is that Sony has made some awesome strides forward with the way that they're going about color this year, and it looks fantastic. For many years, the Sony X900E has been the gold standard as far as picture quality from a LED television, in my personal opinion, because that's what I bought. And I look at it and I see a picture that was fantastic. Well, this TV absolutely destroyed it, and the absolute representation of color, brightness, clarity. It was just a beautiful image, which brings me to upscaling. Upscaling is phenomenal. So I played an older movie, G-Force, which was a gerbil movie on the Wonderful World of Wonder calibration disc, and it had like 0 film grain. It was very clear, and I was very impressed by that, where my 900E was definitely showing its age with the upscaling chipset. So again, another win for the X950H. Now, input lag wasn't exactly my favorite. It wasn't below 10 or it wasn't below 15. You had about 18, and, you know, I don't think that's that great, but it's not that terrible either. Either way you look at it, there are going to be better options on the market for input lag. So if that's something you're buying this TV for, it's still a Sony, and they have been behind everybody else when it comes to input lag for the most part. Though this is decent for a Sony TV, but about the same as last year, so no major upgrades there. Now, out of the box, if you're expecting this TV to be any kind of decent, you're going to be disappointed. This TV looks like garbage out of the box. Hazy, clouding, blooming imagery is what you're going to expect. It's nothing worth your time. Though, if you calibrate it, that's where this TV gets better. So you kind of have to calibrate it. So whatever the price point of this TV is by the time you find this video, you might as well just slap another $250 on it minimally to get Best Buy to calibrate it at the least, because you're going to need it. This TV does not look good on its own, and I know you can dial in settings yourself, but you're doing yourself a disservice because this TV looks insanely good once calibrated. Now, that said, I know that a lot of people are wondering about things like the peak nits. The peak nits are really bright. You don't have any problems, but again, it's not above 1500 nits. It's not even too much far above 1000 nits. I had a real hard time getting it to even hold 900, the high 900s for a long duration of time. The nit range is just kind of like 900 to 800. Real world is what you can kind of expect from this TV, for the most part, which is good, but it's not that great. But the highlights and tone mapping are so good that, honestly speaking, you won't really notice that much at all anyway, so don't get too hung up on the nit range. I know a lot of people are like, brighter is better, but brighter creates more blooming, and this TV needs all the help it can get. Now, there's no risk of image retention or burn-in because it's not an OLED, so that's a huge benefit for you guys out there looking for just a good TV that can last you the testament of time. That's something to think about. Now, I know color banding is also something that people worry about, and you really don't have to on Sony TVs. Smooth gradation is a feature they implement, and it is amazing. Like, in all of their TVs, this is just like the coolest thing. Super smooth, super clear, and I couldn't say enough about it. Now, the weight of this TV isn't that bad. It's really like lightweight. It's well below 50 pounds, my friends, at least with a 49-inch. Now, obviously, the higher-end sizes, I haven't actually had the chance to pick those up, but I'd imagine it wouldn't be that heavy. It's a pretty lightweight TV because it recycles a design, but again, we don't know what they're going to do at the higher-end TV sizes, so we'll see what happens with that, but it shouldn't be too backbreaking, and it's definitely nothing like the legacy Sony X950E televisions. I guess if I had to summarize this and round this out into one final review, I think this is a great product. I think finally Sony kind of gets out of their little shell of creating bad image quality with a ton of blooming that doesn't really appeal to most people. Because even though this TV definitely has a blooming problem, the image quality is superb, next level stuff that really is something that everybody should want to experience in the next generation of television. Sony outdoes themselves with the amount of tone mapping capabilities and color corrections you can do, and really giving the user a bevy of options in the calibration area with the HSL, and honestly speaking, just color reproduction that works and makes a lot more sense than it did last year. This feels like a decent upgrade over the Sony X950G. However, if you're in the market for a Sony X950G, it probably would be the better value, because this isn't that much better in terms of, I guess, price to value ratio. Now, honestly speaking, when we're talking about performance, the Sony X950G did perform worse. You don't have as much usable brightness because blooming is significantly worse, albeit it can hit a similar range of color. Even still though, I prefer the Sony X950H even with the downgrades, so it's kind of a bit of a bittersweet. I recommend it, but not until it gets to a realistic price. Honestly, I wouldn't pay a dime over $1,000 for, I would say, even a 65-inch, because I feel like anything more is a bit much, and I think the 55-inch shouldn't really pay more than $899. I don't think it's worth too much more than that. Now, the 49-inch variant, I think they need to come down substantially in price. I wouldn't pay any more than, I would say, $799, $699 for this TV, because honestly speaking, with the implementations of advanced quantum dot technology, mini LEDs, dual layer technology, TVs in 2020 are changing dramatically, and this TV doesn't have HDMI 2.1, which isn't that big a deal. I did a video on that. If you are curious, make sure you check that out. But honestly speaking, it's just like, I feel like Sony is a little behind the times on this one, even though they did a good job. I do recommend it, but at the right price. Thanks for watching the #1 brand in honesty, and until the next video, I'll see you guys later.